Don't you wanna bet that I can get you back inside your head before the summer ends and spread a little love? Just for a little fun, I'll make you come back to me before the rise of every sun. Baby, it's meant to be, I know you got a man, but he don't understand. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
Welcome to Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit. And now here's your host, Rich Barris.
All right, folks. Good afternoon. Welcome to Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit. I am your host, Rich Barris, the People's Pundit. If you didn't check out the Benny Show I was just on before, good time, good interview. You should definitely go check it out if you did not catch it. I'll also be on Charlie Kirk at 2:30, all right? Right, Laura? 2:30. I believe it's 2:30. I know it was 2:15, then it was 2:10, then it was 2:30. It's 2:30. All right, Eastern Standard Time. We'll talk about a lot of the stuff that we're talking about here. But look, with Alaska, let's get to it. All right. Well, follow me, of course, on Truth and Getter at People's Pundit, on Twitter at People's_Pundit. But the best place to follow me is on Locals, where if you didn't see the scrolling, check out, if you are a supporter on Locals, check out the book club. Don't miss it if you can. Sundays, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Really good stuff. Jack Snyder, Myths of Empire. We are now going through Victorian Britain, and I don't want to get too much into the weeds, but I'll tell you what, folks, every time we read another chapter, it's like something happens throughout the week that is so, what's the word I'm looking for? Prescient, to what is happening in the world today. We're reading it in the book, right? A lot that could be gathered and learned from that. All right, so speaking of which, speaking of coalitions, systems of government, and log rolling, all right, look, the biggest takeaway here, lashing out that we're seeing on Twitter from people like Meghan McCain and Dan Rather, all right, which I was talking about with Benny, is kind of quite hilarious, since Liz Cheney her daddy was constantly criticized by Dan Rather. I mean, basically called him a war criminal. He tried to get his opponent to defeat him for re-election in 2004. But it doesn't matter what your sins are to the media, the corporate media, the left, the establishment, status quo. It doesn't matter how grave your prior sins have been. You could have been a war criminal who lied about WMDs. The minute you turn on Donald Trump, all sins are forgiven. It's like you can buy yourself into their heaven. You can purge away your prior sins like a rich noble could have bought it from the Catholic Church in feudal Europe in the Dark Ages. This is how, sadly, that is a good example, a good comparison to what we have here today. The system of government, the kind of politics that we are seeing. For those who are lashing out like the Meghan McCains and others of the world, you are a failed political class. Let me explain this to you so your little mind can comprehend it. You are a privileged little snob from a failed ruling class, and you're getting stomped because your failed ruling class has refused to listen to what are valid grievances from people that you beg for support every damn election cycle. In no history of any country around the world ever on planet Earth has a citizenry, population, the governed, whatever you want to call them, perpetuated over and over without lashing out and saying you have to do something. Nobody has ever ruled or governed a society where they failed the governed and they were allowed to get away with it in perpetuity forever, which is what perpetuity means. You refused to listen. Now you are being decimated. It's that simple. Has it ever occurred to any of you that you're privileged little snobs and that your life is not representative of the experience of the vast majority of people in this country? When you take issue with a candidate who is being a good steward of the economy because they hurt your feelings over your daddy, and then he loses, some senile idiot comes in and wrecks the economy, and it hurts your fellow brothers and sisters, just because you don't experience it, because you had what is essentially the benefit, the privilege of being able to care about stupid peripheral stuff, as opposed to, basic human needs in Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Maybe you should have considered that others are not as privileged as you. It is not the fault of the Republican voter. Wyoming hasn't lost. Wyoming wasn't being represented. Wyoming was being ignored. Wyoming was being used. Wyoming was being abused by privileged little snots like you who get elected because of their last name and then feel they don't have to worry about anything that anybody else says. They are immature, incompetent, and delusional.
Joining me now is Harriet.
Actually, 1 second.
The great and original champion of our party, Abraham Lincoln, was defeated in elections for the Senate and the House before he won the most important election of all. Lincoln ultimately prevailed, he saved our Union, and he defined our obligation as Americans for all of history. Speaking at Gettysburg of the great task remaining before us, Lincoln said that we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain, that this nation, under God, shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, and for the people shall not perish from this earth. As we meet here tonight, that remains our greatest and most important task. Most of world history is a story of violent conflict, of servitude and suffering. Most
It goes on Laura Ingram and says something totally different. Okay, what I was basically saying, and Laura's yelling at me, I'll repeat it real quick. You have to be some sort of delusional, perhaps clinically delusional. You have to be real special to get your butt kicked that badly and then compare your struggle with the struggle that we now commemorate with Memorial Day. We have to deal with people being delusional about their basic nature on a daily basis. Now we have to deal with leaders being delusional about their importance in the world. I'm going to explain to you why she came out with this speech, by the way, produced by the same person who's producing the January 6th committee, which may have broken the law. That's number one. But I'm going to explain to you what happened here and why they did this anyway, despite the results. But before I do, I'm going to play Harriet's interview with Laura Ingram on Fox News. Listen to the different takeaways from what happened last night. And then we're going to go over some of the numbers and everything. And yes, we are going to get into Alaska, but I'm telling you, you're going to be waiting for Alaska for a long time. So I would not take these projections from people, anyone, at all to heart at this moment. Alaska is huge. You get big vote centers first. They will trickle in from crazy rural areas. They haven't literally till September 2nd to certify this result. You will be waiting around for a long time, and ranked choice doesn't even start to get kicked off until all of those ballots, which can be accepted up until August 31st, are in and counted. I kid you not. All right. So you'll be waiting around for a while. But this wasn't about Liz Cheney not representing her state in her mind. This was about her being like Abraham Lincoln. These people are delusional. First of all, Abraham Lincoln lost districts. He was running for the Sangamon House district. He lost it by 1/10 and 2/10 of a percentage point. He lost the 1854, I believe it was, general election for U.S. Senate. 1858. Excuse me. He lost it to Stephen Douglas by 8 points, 54-46. He did not get blown out by 35 points and make a comeback to be, some great hero of the country. All right, let's do this, and we'll then go into what this is all about, really all about.
Joining me now is Harriet Hageman, the Wyoming congressional candidate who just defeated Liz Cheney. Harriet, first of all, congratulations. I remember talking to you before you decided you were going to throw your hat in the ring for real. And now, you got it, girl. You're going to be the nominee for the party. And I can't imagine you won't be the next congresswoman from the great state of Wyoming.
Well, thank you, Laura. It's wonderful to be back with you. We started this a year ago, or about 11 months ago, and here we are with all of the hard work and the support of the great people across the state of Wyoming and all of our volunteers and supporters. We've been able to succeed.
Did Liz Cheney call you and congratulate you? How was the tone of that conversation?
I haven't had an opportunity to visit with her. We have been kind of wrapped up in all of the stuff associated with what's going on downstairs with our watch party. As you can imagine, we have several hundred people downstairs ready to celebrate, who've been celebrating. And so I have not been able to even look at my phone. So I don't know if she's called or not. So I don't really have anything to report on that.
Oh, that's interesting. Did you happen to hear that part of her speech was a continued vow, Harriet, to make sure Donald Trump never steps foot in the White House after what happened on January 6th, which was not surprising that she said that, but your reaction tonight?
Well, again, I have not had an opportunity to even see or hear what she had to say because I've been kind of focused on what's going on here. It doesn't surprise me that she would revert to those same old talking points because that's really in large part what got her defeated. She's not focusing on Wyoming. She's not focusing on our issues. She's still focusing on an obsession about President Trump. And the citizens of Wyoming, the voters of Wyoming, sent a very loud message tonight. We have spoken, and that is not what we are interested in terms of our lone congressional representative. Wyoming is entitled to have a representative that represents our interests, that listens to us, that addresses our issues. That isn't Liz Cheney, and the fact that that's where she went back to with her speech tonight, I think demonstrates that she really isn't listening to Wyoming now. She hasn't for quite some time, and that's why we needed to replace her. We need to have a representative in Wyoming who listens to us.
And Harriet, when I was lucky enough to spend quite a bit of time in Wyoming in July, the things that I heard most...
I really don't care about Laura Ingram's experience in Wyoming. Harriet Hageman just said it exactly right. The voters deserve to have someone who represents them, Dan Rather. Wyoming didn't lose because they threw somebody out who doesn't share their values. That's what this comes down to. This is what this really comes down to. This ruling class that is losing doesn't respect voter sovereignty at all. That's why year after year, decade after decade, with the exception of maybe a few here and there, a Reagan, a Trump, which is why they hate him so much, they lie to voters. That's all they do. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. She made it her mission, and still is, which we're going to play a clip in a second, to go after the one man in modern memory who defended the state of Wyoming, who defended the voters who share the values of people in the state of Wyoming. This map tells a tale, and we're going to look at the difference in a second. Here is 99% reported. I was going to do the interactive one, but here is what the primary map from last night and now this morning looks like, okay? Just keep this in mind. As you can, by the way, I told you so. Liz Cheney was going to fall below 30. I told you so. And I told you, for those who are local supporters, you read the red flag article of it. I said there are red flags in Wyoming's polling, all right? Public opinion does not change the way that most pollsters give you the appearance it does. The truth is, this was going to be a 30-plus point race. That was going to happen, all right? It's closer to 40 here, you can obviously see. But it always was like that. They were waiting to compensate for not speaking to enough groups, certain groups of voters, which I went into detail mainly by age and region in that little, you could call it an article, post, whatever you want to call it on Locals. You cannot wait to compensate and extrapolate because you have a bad sample. You can't do that. Hagman not only won the Republican vote overwhelmingly, much more than polls suggested, she won the independent vote, obviously. Obviously. And in the coming, when we start to get the data that we need to do it for Locals supporters, we are going to do an analysis, try to give you a number of how many Democratic voters voted for Liz Cheney, all right? But ballpark right now, I could tell you, you could probably take 10% off Liz Cheney's margin. That's, I feel confident saying that. It may be more. We'll have to see. Look at this map. You have two counties that Hageman lost to Liz Cheney in the West, not the East. Like I routinely heard idiots on cable news say last night. Teton County is in the West. That is the Cheney's home. She won it 74.95 to 24.27 over Harriet Hageman. She managed to cling to a lead in Albany County, which was a bit unexpected. We did think that Harriet Hageman was going to overtake her in Albany, but was not surprised that she didn't. But nevertheless, separated by 3 points and about 200 and change votes. That's it. 50.2 to 47.2. That's all. And that is in the southeastern part of the state. You can see there, home right next door to Cheyenne, which is Laramie County. In Wyoming, in a Republican primary, of course, every vote matters, but it comes down to Laramie, where Cheyenne is, and it comes down to Natrona, where Casper is. This was the fastest election we were allowed to call. We were able to make a call for this election cycle, perhaps the fastest ever, but definitely the fastest when it came to competitive or high-interest races, because in Casper, the early vote came in, and it came in for Hageman, and that was it. It was a wrap right after that. Everybody knew it. It didn't matter what Teton did, and it almost didn't matter what Albany did, because by vote shares, they're not that much compared to Laramie, which is about 25,000 votes, in Natrona, which is over 21,000 votes. There's a little bit over 8,000 in Albany in total and less than 8,000 in Teton, so it really didn't matter everywhere else. And we knew she would fall into the 30s when Campbell came in, because this map looks very familiar to us, all right? That is the primary map, and here's the 2020 presidential election map. What happened here is that Liz Cheney spent millions of dollars sending out mailers posing as official election state agency documents, trying to get Democrats to vote in the Republican primary, even if they had to change registration to do so. Without a doubt, the drop in Democratic turnout, without a doubt, suggests that 5 digits, in the ballpark of 5 digits, voted for Liz Cheney. They are Democratic voters. This is essentially a presidential map, ladies and gentlemen. The margins are even the same or similar. Obviously, Cheney did a little bit better than Joe Biden, and Harriet Hageman did a little bit worse than Donald Trump. I would not call it worse. Her margin is a little bit less, but clearly a big blowout. Again, this is significant. It goes to tell you something that I've been telling you for a long time, which is that the anti-never Trumpers like Liz Cheney really aren't Republicans anymore. And it doesn't matter if you chase them and run them out of the party, because they don't vote Republican anyway anymore. They don't vote. They will never vote for Donald Trump anyway anymore. This applies to Arizona. This applies everywhere. The bottom line is you will gain more. Look at that turnout. Even if you take out the Democratic vote, look at that turnout. It is significant. There's 170, almost 171,000 voters in this primary turnout. Even if Liz Cheney got 30,000 Democrats to vote for her, which I'm not saying she did. I'm just saying, think about this. Even if she did, there are still almost 40,000 more votes in this primary than there were in the last Wyoming Republican primary. A Republican primary in Wyoming is about 100,000 votes. Recent history. Little over 105 maybe. Ballpark there. When you cut these people loose, Republicans, you will attract better, newer voters that are a larger number than the prior GOP coalition. This is basic arithmetic at this point. This isn't some deep dive statistical analysis. This is basic arithmetic. MAGA is driving up turnout well beyond historical proportions. Wyoming, Arizona, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Ohio, even Georgia, all over the damn place. Kemp, I said on the Benny Show that, and it's true, Kemp played that perfectly. He's the only one to survive. He did not really go after Trump. He said, I totally agree with the president. I support his agenda. I just don't agree with the premise that the election in Georgia wasn't secure, wasn't, an election with integrity. The election was, he ran himself as a conservative. I'm delivering for you on this, on that, on this, on that. And I love Donald Trump and totally agree with him, except for on this one issue. Nancy Mace, who survived her primary challenge against Katie Arrington, did not run against Donald Trump in South Carolina's 1st congressional district. In fact, the day that Donald Trump endorsed Katie Arrington, she went in front of Trump Tower to announce how proud she was to be able to support basically the greatest president ever elected ever. Smart play. She survived. And she was not an impeacher, by the way. So this is the lesson here. Cut them loose. Liz Cheney had a plan. The media had a plan. They still have a plan. And it's all for the benefit of the Democratic Party. Spend $7 million trying to get Democrats to vote for Liz Cheney so she outperforms the polls. And when she does, they can crow on and on about how there is this hidden support that's against Trump. And you know what? Someone's got to represent them. So it better be, who better for it to be than Abraham Lincoln herself? I'm going to go out there. I'm going to quote Lincoln from the Gettysburg Address and all but announce that I'm running for president in 2024. But something happened. And what happened is she got abused like a redheaded stepchild. Even with all of those Democratic votes, MAGA came out in force and crushed her. She was utterly embarrassed, worse than any Trump impeacher this cycle. And they still did it. They still went forward. And this morning, they're still holding her up as a goddess.
I will be doing whatever it takes to keep Donald Trump out of the Oval Office. Well, I know.
That's not Liz Cheney's job, and that was never Liz Cheney's job. But I wanted to show that to you because, again, these people have no consideration. They don't respect. They don't care about voter sovereignty at all. They don't give a damn. She will run as an independent with the hope that she could pull something away from Donald Trump to prevent him from beating whomever they run. It doesn't matter if it's, Biden and he's just like full-blown dementia at that point. It doesn't matter if it's Kamala Harris. It doesn't matter if it's Pete Buttigieg. It doesn't matter if it's Elizabeth Warren. It doesn't matter if it's Bernie Sanders. It doesn't matter if it's Hillary Clinton. It doesn't matter who it is. Donald Trump has something they are terrified of, and it's called the "I told you so" argument. They cannot win, and they know they can't win. So they have to try to arrest him, run an idiot like Liz Cheney as a third-party choice. I don't think it's going to work. I do not think it's going to work, and I'm going to tell you why. That someone else category that we have seen come down in the public polling project over the last, 6 to 8 months? It's come down because Republicans are just saying, I'll vote for Donald Trump. The someone else category is Democratic. That hurts the inevitable Democratic nominee. I don't see Liz Cheney peeling more voters from Donald Trump. Not right now, I don't. I think Jack is right. It's the wino Tupperware moms, the educated white liberals, the Karens in suburbia. If anything, Liz Cheney is going to pluck those away from Democrats. But they're dumb. These are not really smart people. They hold and maintain power because they're ruthless. Because they're willing to do whatever they have to do. You just heard her say it. She's going to do whatever needs to.
I will be doing whatever it takes to keep Donald Trump out of the Oval Office.
Well, I know.
No conflict there. This is a woman who was on the January 6th committee, and now she's joining a group to prevent Donald Trump from being able to run. No conflict there. Is that or was that ever her job as the representative of the at-large district in the state of Wyoming? Her job is to respect the will of the sovereign voter and to represent them and to represent their interests in their nation's capital. She's not doing this because she's on some kind of mission or crusade to stop a big bad man from damaging the country. Is there anyone who can seriously argue that, make a rational argument at this point? The Biden supporting Republicans were obviously more of a risk to the country. Everything has fallen off a cliff. Everything. And before we move on to Alaska, there's one thing more I want to show you. This is because I get constantly getting bombarded with these not only polls, but basically people who are asked, what about these forecasts? What about this? What about that? There is a fundamental flaw in the thinking of these so-called election forecasters, who, by the way, thought that Liz Cheney would do better last night than she did. Let me tell you, they see something in private that's very different than what they say out loud. This is Gibbs versus Hillary Scholten and Peter Mayer versus Hillary Scholten in Michigan's 3rd Congressional District. When John Gibbs defeated Peter Mayer for the GOP nomination in this district, everybody moved their race from leans R to toss up, or likely R to leans D, or whatever. Their entire justification is that Gibbs doesn't raise money like Peter Mayer does. And I'll tell you, and I have something I want to tell you guys right now. If you think I'm wrong about Kevin McCarthy wanting to lose seats, he's not trying to get a red wave, then you better think again. Because Kevin McCarthy hasn't even returned John Gibbs' phone call yet. If somebody watching is near Kevin or wants to pick up the phone and give him a buzz Ask him, tell him the People's Pundit is asking why he hasn't returned John Gibbs' phone call yet. Because Kevin McCarthy is counting votes. He is not counting seats in a majority. But it doesn't matter anyway, because a couple of weeks ago, everybody was admitting openly and out loud that a wave carries candidates. It doesn't matter if they're poor fundraisers. It doesn't matter if the media thinks they're a weaker candidate. Waves sweep all types of candidates, including low fundraisers, into office. That's how Sweeney lost in New Jersey to a guy who spent $50 on his campaign handing out donuts to people. Because that's what waves do. But it doesn't matter anyway, because fundraising isn't the central point here. After Wyoming, I am again pressing this point. The impeachers were dead on arrival. Republican voters were never going to vote for them. If John Gibbs lost to Peter Mayer, Michigan 3 was gone. If Joe Kent lost to Jamie Herrera Butler, Washington 3 was gone. Yet all of them are moving these races because the Trump impeachers were defeated. They don't seem to understand that no amount of money in the world would have convinced these people to vote for these representatives that they feel has betrayed them. And as a matter of fact, I will pull up. Let me remove this. That's the top line. Let's look a little bit more before we go into the other one. I'll probably save Alaska for the second half anyway. But there's, again, not much to talk about with Alaska. We simply have to wait. I just want to explain to everybody how it's conducted and why it is the way it is, all right? But I'll tell you right now. Lisa Murkowski, in an attempt to protect herself from primary challenges, has handed the state of Alaska to Democrats. The main product in Alaska, that sector will be decimated. That's going to happen because Republicans, career politicians like Lisa Murkowski, either are too stupid to understand or they don't care because they're too selfish that economics is politics and politics is economics. They're the same. Why is Georgia close? Invite a mini Tinseltown into Atlanta. Insource all of these professional class jobs. And it becomes more blue. Are you shocked? Lisa Murkowski, in an attempt to save herself, supported ranked choice voting, and she did. Don't tell me she didn't. Her own advisors are the ones who pushed the damn referendum. So don't give me that crap. She just didn't speak about it publicly, but she backed it in every way she possibly could. And because she did, they'll hold the Senate seat this time. It doesn't matter whether it's Chewbacca or Murkowski. It doesn't matter. They're going to hold the Senate this time, whether it's Kelly or Lisa. But next time, probably maybe not. Sarah Palin could lose the at-large race right now because of ranked choice voting. They threw Alaska to Democrats, a state that's a double-digit Trump state. All right, but let's show this. It's small, so I'm going to make it bigger. I want to show you something. It's important, okay? And why? Because it's in the context of Wyoming. If you still believe what these idiots are selling, then stop, texting me every day or adding me every day, asking me about this, that, the other thing. I'm telling you what I'm telling you right now. Take it to heart or don't. You can clearly see here that John Gibbs, although he's only winning about 2% of the Democratic vote, Hillary Scholten is winning 9 and 10 and getting 4% of Republicans. That means it's significant. It's throwing the significant. John Gibbs, however, is also taking 9 and 10 base support, and he's carrying independents by about 4 points. Actually, if you don't round, it's closer to 5. But you can clearly see here that he is winning independents and others, and he has full base support. You all see that? Is that big enough for everybody to see? This is important. Actually, I'll zoom in one more time. All right, so Gibbs had a tiny little lead, 45.6 to 45.3. Now, I know other polls are out there showing Schulten with a little lead. I think one even showed like an 8-point lead. Well, you're not going to be a D+9 district this year. That's not going to happen. The Republican turnout advantage is so clear, you have to be a blind idiot not to see it. Even if the electorate is even on election day, Gibbs is probably going to win this district because of the swing we see nationwide. And by the way, how do we know we're right? Because we actually overstated Biden in the 2020 vote in this district, which I'll show you in a second. Now, I got to give it to Peter Mayer. He closed the gap and he closed it hard. I'm not going to get into why or how in public here, but he did, and he deserves credit for trying to claw his way back to victory against John Gibbs. Anyway, you can clearly see here, 55.8% of Republicans say they would vote for Peter Mayer, 6% of Democrats. So big deal. Peter Mayer is winning more than double the amount of Democrats that John Gibbs is winning, but it doesn't matter because he can't keep his own base. Because he's even pissed off, or did piss off, right-leaning independents in the district, he's losing them to Hillary. There are more undecideds in that race. The undecided in the Gibbs versus Schulten was very small with independents this far out, 16%, a little under 16%. It was about a third. But you can clearly see that he didn't just put off Republicans. 38% undecided. Well, there's only 5% undecided against John. He also turned off right-leaning independents who supported Donald Trump or have, they're partial to their gun rights, or they think the January 6th commission is a joke. This is something the forecasters don't want you to understand or get, okay? By the way, look, see, Biden 51, Trump 46. That's basically right on the money. Biden slightly carrying independents. Biden's approval in this district is now terrible. It's in the low 40s, which suggests that this district will vote Republican. And in fact, the generic ballot was 48-44. It's closer when it comes down to candidates, but the district wants to vote Republican after voting for Biden in 2020. All right. Where is it? Okay. Wait a minute. Where is it? No. I'm trying to find that one question where it's relevant here. Okay. Representative Peter Mayer voted to impeach former President Donald Trump, and if he wins the Republican primary, please describe how it will impact your vote in the general election. Okay? All in all, 23.5% said it makes them more likely to vote for Peter Mayer because he did that. Mayer. Less likely to vote for Peter Mayer, 21.4%. No chance I'd vote for Peter Mayer, 38.4%. Where's that coming from, ladies and gentlemen? It's not really coming from Democrats now, is it? There's no upside there. 44% of Republicans said there's no chance I'd vote for him. And 31% of independents said there's no chance I'd vote for him. By the way, you may take note here that that is the largest group of independents. It's close to more likely. It shows you that independents are pretty split on it. But another quarter said less likely. So for all these forecasters out there that think that the Trump impeachers losing is somehow a bad thing for the Republican Party, you're full of crap. Or you're covering for Kevin McCarthy, who hasn't called these candidates back yet. Let me say this again because I want everyone to understand this and hear me loud and clear. Kevin McCarthy is not helping the candidates who defeated the Trump impeachers. Kevin McCarthy wants them to lose so he could say, I told you so, MAGA can't win. MAGA can't win these districts. Even though it's very clear from the actual polling that they are the weaker candidates, not MAGA. Which is why they're calling David and Giglio and begging him literally every day since I first told you about it. They want you to hold your nose and bend over and do whatever it is they tell you to do, but they won't help you. Kevin, why haven't you called John Gibbs yet? And by the way, if you don't take their consultants, right? If you don't take all their vendors, I will. Laura's over here throwing questions at me. I will try to answer some questions today, but it's a shorter show, and I don't want to take away from what's going on in Alaska. All right, Alaska is funny like that. If you remember in 2020, it looked like it was actually or potentially could be closer than it was. Lisa Murkowski is about a 5,000 vote lead right now, and there's at least 35 to roughly 40% of the vote remaining. That tells me that there was a bigger election day vote than expected. So I would not count Kelly out yet at all. However, I will tell you that in the at-large special in round one, because Nick Begich and Sarah Palin had this like feud going on, it is possible, if enough of Begech's voters did not put Sarah Palin as their second choice, that Sarah Palin absolutely can lose this race. And the at-large special, which you're going to vote again on anyway in November, will be Mary Peltola will be an incumbent. I told you all that she would lead early, and probably this like more rural vote that comes in is probably going to benefit Palin more, but she is down considerably more than expected. And it's possible that the second round choice from the more moderate candidates will not break for some of the Republican candidates that you're hoping, as much as some of these people, these pro-Trump forces hope. This is just, again, people who know me, I am vehemently against ranked choice voting. I don't care what the Libertarian Party argument is. You're not a viable political force. That's your fault. That's your fault. Don't make some kind of crazy convoluted system that results in potentially 2/3 of the voters, more than right now, as of right now, 60% of the voters may not have representation. What do I mean by that? Republicans outvoted Democrats 60-40 in this at large. They are taking a combined 60+% of the vote, 62% of the vote. And yet they could seriously lose this election to somebody who will be first round in the 30s. That's your fairer choice? That's your fair election system? I'm a winner-take-all guy. Everybody gets to compete. I'm a little bit more, I like the raw parliamentary system. We have been doing that for years in this country. I actually just rattled off when idiot Liz Cheney, we were running clips about her, comparing herself to Abraham Lincoln. I just was explaining some of the prior election results. You know how many people Lincoln ran against? When he lost, give me 1 second. When he lost the Illinois for Sangamon County House District General election in, he won it in 1838, but he lost it in 36 and 34. He may have lost it in 32 as well. He did. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 candidates in 1832. The candidate who won 13.6% of the vote, Edmund Taylor, was the winner. Okay? Going on to 1834, John Dawson edged out Abraham Lincoln 16.22 to 16.06. 14 votes. 14 votes. All right? That's what Lincoln lost by. When Lincoln won, he won it by 22 votes in 1836. There was 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 candidates on the ballot, and he was elected with 9.4% of the vote. All right. Ranked choice voting is designed to keep, it's not one party or the other. It's establishment versus outsider. It is designed to not moderate. That is bullcrap. Somebody on Twitter said it, and I quote tweeted it because he was absolutely right. It is a grift. We have more choices. It's fair. It's this extreme. No, it's not. It's designed to keep the in-party power, the status quo power, let's just say that, in power. It makes it much more difficult for an incumbent to lose. Don't take my word for it. Why did Lisa Murkowski support it? because she cares about healthy democracy, just stop. Just stop. The woman is a plurality survivor. What do I mean by that? She has never survived on majority votes. Never. Never. She was beaten in 2010 and ignored all that. Partnered with Democrats, did a write-in candidate, and told Republican primary voters to go stick it. That's what ranked choice voting is. It's even worse in the Senate and the governor's race. And eventually, I am telling you right now, eventually Democrats will get their act together, and Republicans suffering from what Laura calls the Messiah syndrome will put too many candidates on a ballot, and Democrats will win that Senate seat eventually. It's going to happen. Mark my words. It's going to happen. Republicans have got to stop shooting themselves in the foot like this. How many Democratic challengers, serious Democratic challengers, did you see against Mary? In the at-large special? None. None. In the at-large primary, it was different. There were others like, but they weren't Dems. Even if another Dem did try to get on it, they wouldn't get any. They seriously wouldn't get any support, financial support. On the Republican side, Sarah Palin, Nicholas Begich, and Tara Sweeney. All of them getting thousands of votes. Sarah Palin has 48,000 votes, just under. The Democrat Mary Patola in the primary has about 53,000 votes. Nicholas Begich has almost 41,000 votes. Democrats are going to get about a third of the vote. That's it. So it's a little bit sad for Republicans because otherwise they would have been able to celebrate this turnout advantage that is showing up everywhere. And in Alaska, I haven't seen one like this since 2010. This is significant. But because of ranked choice voting, and by the way, you might notice there's something else I want to talk about. Bill Walker running as an other for governor, got 22% of the vote. There is now a well-established precedent in the state of Alaska to vote for independent candidates. So this idea that they needed ranked choice to give them an independent candidate, as if Parnell and others have not shown that was not the case. This idea that, well, we'll get more choices. They have a long streak of demonstrating how non-two-party candidates can do damage and win elections in the state of Alaska. Yeah, I'll answer some of those questions and others. That's a good question. How can Alaska change away from ranked choice? You would have to do it the way it was done. I mean, sadly, it would have to be a race by referendum. And the right has yet to put together, we saw it in Maine, now we saw it in Alaska, they have yet to put together a comprehensive response or opposition to Democrats who come and libertarians and other, they all partner together to get ranked choice voting. And Republicans are the only ones left trying to explain to people why it is that they shouldn't do it, and they're not coherent at all. So they lose the argument, and they lose it bad. But listen, let me give you. Well, I'm going to take a quick break, all right, and then when we come back, we'll do it. It is going to be a shorter show, but I'm going to go over what I thought I was going to go over anyway, because I wanted time to explain how ranked choice works. All right, so hey, listen, all of you, if you're not listening to Inside the Numbers right now, when we come back from the break, please do not ask me on Twitter how ranked choice voting works. It's different in Maine than it is in Alaska. It's a very unique system, and I'm going to explain it when we come back. We'll be back in 2 minutes and 46 seconds. You're watching Inside the Numbers.
How much you wanna bet that I can get you back inside your head? Before the summer ends and spread a little love. Just for a little fun, I'll make you come back to me before the rise of every sun. Baby, it's meant to be, I know you got a man, but he don't understand. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. can't make this stuff up. My chest beats its restless wakes the neighbors up above. Yeah, baby, come and show me love. Baby, come and show me love. Because you're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
Get on a plane and take a one-way ride. Steal us away to find a place we can hide. It wouldn't take much to disappear for a night. Just to give in to the need and leave it all behind.
'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. 'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. Suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
All right, we're back inside the numbers with the People's Pundit. I'm your host, Rich Barris, People's Pundit. You can follow me on Twitter at Peoples_Pundit, on Truth and Getter at People's Pundit without the underscore. Sign up on Rumble if you haven't already, which we do see many of you had some nice views on Rumble lately. Keep it up, keep it up, keep it up. People's Pundit on Rumble. We are still on YouTube. You can always sign up there if you like the video, either on Rumble or YouTube. Go ahead and give it a plus or a thumbs up. And don't forget on YouTube the notification bell. That'll let you know when I'm going to go live. But of course, the best place, and if you're on Rumble, you can find it very easily. The best place to follow us is on Locals, peoplespundit.locals.com. peoplespundit.locals.com. All right, while I'm doing this and explaining this, let's take a look at the latest election results so far from oh, that's the governor. Okay, sorry about that. But you can clearly see there, Republicans, Mike Dunleavy, the Republican, Les Garcia, and the Democrat, and Bill Walker, the third party I was just referring to, the independent candidate, will all have moved on to round 2, okay? And everyone's like, what the hell does that mean? Well, let's get to it, all right? This is the at-large primary, all right? But let's talk about the special, which is up here, which I was explaining before, all right? It is possible that Mary Peltola could win this thing if enough of Begitch's voters did not vote for Palin on the second draft ballot, okay? A little bit different when it comes to the primary, which will kick off in November, all right? And we'll get into Kelly Tshibaka's chances of overtaking Lisa Murkowski. I've actually seen some more recent ones. There'll be a bigger update soon, but it does look like Kelly did a little bit better in those last returns. One dump really pushed Murkowski out about almost 6,000 votes for a hot minute there, and then Kelly got about 800 net, so it closed it again a little bit, but it's still nonetheless you're going to have to wait on some of these more rural areas. They are less populated, however, but it appears there was a bigger election day turnout than expected, which is why we saw the revisions down to what was reported out. All right, now let's talk about how this goes, and when we see this is the issue here. We really are going to have to wait a while to really infer what's happening, all right? First of all, let's start with the U.S. House because it's an easier example for me to illustrate how this goes, all right? And then you'll see when I do this how complicated it is in the U.S. Senate. All ballots must be counted before ranked choice is tabulated. Again, all ballots, all of them, must be counted before anyone can start using the machine software, and it is machine software, to tabulate ranked choice. The division can accept ballots mailed from overseas voters until August 31st. We will have to wait until those ballots are received and tabulated. If the top vote getter for the U.S. House, and same thing for Senate, it's going to happen, has earned less than 50% of the vote, which is going to happen, ranked choice tabulation begins. The last place candidate is eliminated, and their second place votes are distributed to the other candidates. If Begech's voters did not choose Palin overwhelmingly as their second choice, Mary Peltola could win. This will happen in the Senate race eventually, probably sooner rather than later. Lisa Murkowski has screwed her voters. She screwed her state. She screwed the people who have supported her this entire time. Because what do you think Democrats are going to do once they have the at-large districts or they have the Senate, at least one Senate seat, you know? What do you think is going to happen, ladies and gentlemen? You think they're going to support Alaska's energy sector? Exactly how many votes, how many no votes did you count with the Inflation Reduction Act, which had nothing to do with reducing inflation, it had everything to do with attacking the energy sector? How many Democratic votes opposing that bill in the Senate were there again? Somebody refresh my memory. That's right, none. The division expects to certify election results on September 2nd because the second choice vote is tabulated very quick. I told you from the beginning that Mary Peltola, the Democrat, will lead in this race. She will. It's just a matter of by how much. Because her lead is pretty significant right now. Well, it may not stay that way. Again, we have a lot of votes to count. I'm just telling you, looking at what I see right now. It is entirely possible that the more moderate candidate has voters who chose Peltola. And if that's the case, and the numbers are significant, then even though Palin's going to close that gap significantly, it's going to be hard to overcome it. I'm not saying it can't happen. I'm telling you what's possible. For the U.S. Senate, a top candidate endorsed by the top candidates were the Trump-endorsed Kelly Tshibaka, the incumbent senator Lisa Murkowski, and Democrat Pat Chesbrough. Okay, and as you can see right here, what happened? Pat Chesbrough did get 6% of the vote. Interesting, really, what happened here. I got to be honest. This is the one area where Democrats did not consolidate, but it almost didn't freaking matter. This should be a little bit concerning for Democrats. The lopsided vote shares in Alaska are significantly more Republican in the Senate race than we have seen, and in period. Significantly more Republican than we've seen in some of these more recent elections. For instance, there are 19 candidates in this race. The top 4 candidates will advance to ranked choice general election, all right, which is what we're seeing right now. We already have 3 called, all right, but it almost does, the 4th almost doesn't matter, and that's a debate that people have been having. I'm going to explain it in a second, all right? It's a little funny because some of these Democratic candidates, they've run before, and they received decent shares of the vote when it wasn't the ranked choice system. Edgar Blanchford, in 2016, he got 33% of the vote. And then in 2020, when he ran again, he got 8.7. Well, we can see right here that Edgar is getting less than 1% of the vote right now. So there's some funny stuff going on. Al Gross, he crushed him in 2020. Al Gross got 79.8% in the Democratic primary. Now, you can see how crazy this all can be. In the end, again, regardless of how this works, Lisa Murkowski has almost assuredly thrown the state of Alaska to Democrats in the not-so-distant future. There's debate over whether that 4th place finisher is significant or not. And let's look at some of the results now that we have them to see what happened here. Those who believe it will be, they argued that, of course, they'll be eliminated. And if it's a so-called moderate 4th placer, that would benefit Lisa Murkowski, for instance. Why? Because if you went with a moderate first, it's likely that somebody like Lisa Murkowski was your second choice. However, if a 4th place candidate was somebody like Dustin Dardenne, then that would benefit Kelly Tshibaka. All right? Right now, Buzz Kelly is in 4th place, which would benefit Kelly, I think. Personally, it's just that these vote shares aren't that much. What is looking better for Murkowski is that Pat Chesbrough, I would say her voters are more likely to choose Murkowski. But again, they could have chose Taylor. They could have chose Edgar Blanchford. Maybe that's why Blanchford's so weak in the first. He was a lot of people's second choices. All right. Democrats not going to win, but it's a matter of whether or not Lisa Murkowski is able to use this crazy system to her advantage. Here's what may not be good for Murkowski. Kelly Chewbacca's voters were not choosing Lisa Murkowski as a second choice. It's unclear how many of Murkowski's voters would have said, okay, I don't want it to fall in Democratic hands. So even though I'm more of a moderate, I'm going to vote for Lisa in the first round here. I'll put Chewbacca as my second. This may actually will wind up hurting Murkowski in the end. It may. It really may. And by the way, where is Dustin? You see somebody like Dustin Darden down here who ran as another. He doesn't have that much at all. So those second choicers, I don't want to say it doesn't matter, but they didn't get a significant amount of the vote. All right. And I hope that explains some of it to you, how this works. The why I can't really answer. The why is because Lisa Murkowski wanted to get it. And they basically wanted, that's a great question. What happens if this voter's second choice is also eliminated? That's a great question. They're ranked, they are ranked choice. So it goes in Alaska. That's done. They're done. There's no point. They're not counted. It's only those who have those second votes that go to one of the top vote getters. That was a really good question, David. And I think it may even be different in Maine. It is different. I'm just not sure how it works. But yeah, that was interesting. It was pushed on them, but they did vote for it. They did. And Republicans have been ineffective, unable even to combat this coalition of Democrats and Libertarians and Green parties and independent vote. And I don't mean independent like independent voter. I mean an independent affiliation. All right. They've been unable to mount a significant argument against it. In the case of Alaska, if something goes wrong here for them, they'll be able to do so. They will be able to do it. They'll be able to take this example and say, look, it's convoluted. Look what can happen. So this was to represent everybody. 60% got screwed. It is a mess, Emperor. It's a total mess. And nobody is going to convince me otherwise. I don't know if you saw the Libertarian Party when I brought up ranked choice and how it worked. They actually jumped on my thread and tried to advocate in favor for it when most of the people were responding were like, this is dumb. And you can very clearly see that they used platitude-like arguments. You only get two choices in communist countries. Oh, please. Be a viable party or don't be. You could be like Rand Paul and run as a Republican. Or you could just have a coalition with Appeal. And then you're going to fracture another party and start to build your own brand. This is some ridiculous nonsense to make these parties feel like they have more of a chance. And in a state like Alaska, again, there's a reason to think they do if you're them. We've seen it in gubernatorial races. It is 100% developed by Democrats to take over deep red states like Texas. There's without a doubt. You think it's an accident that they started to lose one of the congressional districts, one of the two congressional districts in Maine? So they decided ranked choice? You think that was an accident? And right, you have zero choices in a communist country. It was a dumb comment, I know, stupid. But go and look and you'll see. It's there. Unbelievable stupidity. Unbelievable. I do agree with Jonathan that the two-party system sucks. I'm more of a parliamentary kind of system government kind of guy, and that's the way our early founding was run. I was just rattling off to you about Abraham Lincoln. It was Republican, Democrat, Whig, this, that, the other thing, unaffiliated, and they got vote shares. The problem now with the two-party system is that it has an entire infrastructure to support it. Big meat. It's become, again, Jack Snyder, Myths of Empire guys. Join locals. Join the book club. Don't miss it. Sundays, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's become a cartelized system now. And that means you have these interest groups that have banded together, and they basically work together to box out other parties and their choices. What do you mean by that, Rich? It's more than the media, guys. It's decisions that the debates on the Commission on Presidential Debates makes. They're not nonpartisan. They're part of the cartel. I mean, yeah. I mean, somebody wrote this. I want to put this out. Everything I've heard of ranked choice is good. Is it flawed because the electorate is ignorant? Well, then maybe ranked choice is not good. You can't expect people, and you know how I speak about the American public. They're not stupid. It's rational ignorance. I call it rational ignorance. They're trying to survive. They don't have time to be diving into the minutia of every single 19 candidates. Aren't we expecting something from voters that is really not possible? And I do think Jonathan and Palin probably will leak it out. I'm just saying right now, it is absolutely possible that Peltola could win. Even though, I mean, look at where she stands right now. So yeah, I mean, I think we're asking way too much. People are busy. They're suffering from a cost of living crisis. They have one crisis in their life. They're going from one crisis in their life to another. I don't think it's fair to expect that of them. And frankly, our founding fathers did as well. They agreed with me, which is why they didn't have direct elections for certain offices in the beginning. It wasn't because they thought, they were trying to suppress the vote. If you didn't have a stake or a claim in the game, then you wouldn't do the work. You wouldn't take the time. You wouldn't put the civic duty, before everything else. And you were busy. Do you really have time to vet the best Senate candidate? Do the people of Arizona know that Mark Kelly is a raging radical leftist who votes with Biden and the Democrats and AOC 100% of the time? They're busy. And at the end of the day, special interest groups who wanted the 17th Amendment are the same special interest groups who want ranked choice voting. Why? Because it benefits rent seekers. If it benefits the status quo, it benefits rent seekers. Special interest groups. They do not want people losing re-elections. They can't afford buying a new schmuck every time the voter dares to throw the one they don't like out. It gets expensive. That was their argument behind the 17th Amendment when publicly they put it forward as one man, one vote. That was a load of crap. That was a story they told the public. It's cheaper to trick you than it is to buy a new legislator every time you remove them from office. That's the truth of it. Say it again. It is cheaper for rent seekers to trick you, to trick the voting public, than it is to buy a new legislator every time an incumbent is defeated. So, again, yes, they can switch up the referendum later. It would be tough, though. I mean, Republicans would have to make a sound argument. And as far as Ashton, I wanted to answer his as well. I know because we were only going to do an hour today because I got so much other stuff going on, and but I wanted to make sure we got into this. And Ashton, I want to answer your question too. What is up with Senator Tim Scott? He endorsed Murkowski and gave a weak answer to the raid on Mar-a-Lago. Tim Scott is a fraud. That's what's up with Tim Scott. As I, first reported when we first heard it. Tim Scott, before 2020, was in the living rooms of donors telling them that it would be best if Donald Trump lost. According to him and Lindsey Graham, Donald Trump was a damage to the brand. He was going to damage the brand among black and brown people for a generation. Of course, it's amazing that they haven't changed their tune on this yet, or at least they've changed it without explaining that they were wrong about that presupposition. In the end, that was not true at all. Donald Trump is expanding the Republican coalition among minorities. So I don't know what that means. So I do know what it means. It means they weren't telling the truth, and their real reason, their real motive for opposing Trump and Trumpism has nothing to do with the brand or his bombastic presence or how crass he is and how offensive he is to people. It has nothing to do with it. Tim Scott and Lindsey Graham are in those same homes telling people they will support Nikki Haley for president in 2024. If you think I'm kidding, I know. It's nuts. And yes, I do think that both Blake Masters and Kari Lake can win their respective races in Arizona. However, I do think that Kari Lake has an easier path to victory than Blake Masters does. I know that's not the conventional wisdom, but I don't care. I've polled it. I polled the larger general election electorate. It's easier for Democrats to win federal races in states that it's true of, it doesn't matter of Arizona. It's true, period, that in states where you see changing demographic voting trends, the gubernatorial election is always the last to go. You'll start to see federal races go first, and then the old partisan chains get thrown off at the end in the legislatures and in the governor's races. It is easier for a Republican to win the gubernatorial election in Arizona than it is for them to win federal elections. Doug Ducey is a great example. Look at how they still voted overwhelmingly for a Republican governor, while inch by inch by inch they moved away in the U.S. Senate, and then also in the end, Arizona voted for Joe Biden. I'm going to leave it there. And so that's that's where I'm coming from on that. I think Kari Lake has the better chance to beat Katie Hobbs. And also Blake Masters has a harder time because the war chest and the sympathy for Mark Kelly. Can we be real here? The man ran off of his wife getting shot in the head and being left mentally deficient. You got to give it to them. You got to give it to them. They are not ashamed at all. At all. So it's tougher for Blake Masters to make that case. He's not going to have he's not going to have as much money to be able to make that case than Mark Kelly, who is running, honestly, extremely. And if you're in Arizona right now, you know what I'm talking about. All you see are Mark Kelly ads and Katie Hobbs ads. All right. You do not see Republican ads. And Mark Kelly's ads are really good. He's pretending to be a Republican. I kid you not. He is pretending to be a Republican, Mark Kelly. The ads are extremely smart. I've seen them. They're brilliant. They're not true. He's a liar, but that's not the point. Also, Katie Hobbs has problems. Even independent voters in the state of Arizona believe that there were serious issues in Arizona. We put it that. We've polled it. We know. They tend to side with Republicans. So with that being said, it's like Katie Hobbs is asking for a promotion when she can't even conduct an election. She wants to be the governor when she can't count 120 votes in 5 days. 120,000 votes in 5 days. I mean, she's had a lot of scandals. She's had a lot of issues. All right. And I believe that, by the way, even with the McCains trying to sabotage. In the end, Trump actually held more of the Republican base than Martha McSally did in 2020, and he did better with independents. So what does that tell you? Who's the weaker candidate, the MAGA or the moderate? I'll leave that for you to decide. All right, listen, I'm going to probably close that chat from last night on locals pretty soon, and we'll open up another one that follows only Alaska as we get more information. I'm thinking that's probably the best way to go about it, all right? Don't forget, join locals, become a supporter, and then don't miss the book club on Sundays at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, because a lot of this lingo, a lot of everybody would be, the more the merrier, can follow along with what we're talking about. People who are in the book club are like, oh, yeah, I know what he means. And some people I can see are like, the hell are you talking about? Log rolling, cartelized systems. What the hell are you talking about? Jack Snyder, Missive Empire. All right, don't miss it. All right, what else? Charlie Kirk, 2:30. All right, which is why I got to head out and do a couple of things before this. But yeah, Charlie Kirk at 2:30. Don't miss that. That should be a good one. All right, and why am I feeling like I'm missing something? Why do I feel like I'm missing something? Laura. I don't know. Public polling project, maybe? I don't know. Share far and wide. Contribute if you can. Greatly appreciate it. Let's get a generic ballot in. We're coming up on Labor Day. I'd like to see what we have. And I'd like to, I really too want to dig in this next one more about enthusiasms and motivations and vote history, stuff like that. I think it's very important at this point. I see a very clear Republican enthusiasm edge. And I see it's more than enthusiasm because it's turning out. Right. There have been examples where enthusiasm was not high, yet the party still was able to get their base out. Republicans are outvoting Democrats everywhere. I don't get, the spin aside now. Spin aside the crap like Minnesota won. Republicans are romping it. And by the way, Ted Budd is not going to lose in the state of North Carolina. Ted Budd is going to win pretty comfortably. All right, we'll get into that later, though. All right. See you on Friday on Inside the Numbers. Don't miss it. All right. That's noon Eastern Standard Time. Of course, we'll have Dawn. We have a lot of cool shows planned that we're going to be doing. So I don't want to, jump the shark here, but stay tuned because we got a couple of real good ones that are coming your way. All right. Covering stories where we've done polling, where stuff is relevant to the polling. It's going to be good stuff. Don't miss it. Can't wait. All right. But I will see you on Friday. Noon Eastern Standard Time, we'll do more questions with Dawn, of course, on our Free Will and Friday episode of Inside the Numbers. Don't forget to hit the like button if you're watching on YouTube, all right? Don't forget to hit the notification bell after you subscribe. That'll let you know when we're going to go live on Rumble, plus sign it up, all right? People's Pundit on Rumble. It's the People's Pundit Rumble channel. Always streaming live as well to Getter. Check us out on Getter and Truth at People's Pundit and on Twitter at People's_Pundit. As soon as we have more on Alaska, we'll bring it to you as always. All right, folks. Thanks for watching. See you soon. And for Laura, deuces.
How much you wanna bet that I can get you back inside your head before the summer ends and spread a little love. Just for a little fun, I'll make you come back to me before the rise of every sun. Baby, it's meant to be. I know you got a man, but he don't understand. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. Rhythm in our love, it's impressive, excessive. You can't make this stuff up. My chest beats its restless, wakes the neighbors up above. Yeah, baby, come and show me love. Baby, come and show me love. Because you're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
We can get on a plane and and took a one-way ride. Steal us away to find a place we can hide. It wouldn't take much to disappear for a night, just to give in to the need and leave it all behind.
Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow